Today we're diving into Ramit Sethi's hugely influential book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. We're going to break down his whole system for building wealth, which, believe it or not, isn't about cutting back on lattes. It's actually about spending more on the things you absolutely love. So let's get right into it.
Okay, let me just start with a quick question. Do you hate budgeting? I mean, really, that feeling of tracking every single dollar, feeling guilty every time you buy a coffee? Yeah, if that's you, you are definitely not alone. In fact, it's probably the #1 reason most people just give up on managing their money. But here's a thought. What if the problem isn't you? What if it's the budget itself? Sethi's big argument is that most budgets are doomed to fail, not because we lack willpower, but because the whole idea behind them is just fundamentally flawed from the get-go.
And this right here is the heart of the problem. Traditional financial advice is all about no. No, you can't have that. No, you can't go there. It's a mindset that's built on scarcity and guilt. And honestly, who can live like that for very long? Our brains just aren't wired for constant self-punishment. It never lasts.
So if that old system of restriction is totally broken, what's the alternative? Well, this is where Ramit Sethi introduces a completely different way of thinking, the rich life philosophy.
So who is this guy? Well, Ramit isn't your typical finance expert. He studied technology and psychology at Stanford, so his approach is all about how we humans actually behave with money, not how spreadsheets say we should behave. He's known for his very direct, no BS style, and his entire focus is on what he calls big wins, those few key decisions that make a huge difference instead of obsessing over tiny sacrifices.
And this whole philosophy really boils down to one powerful idea. You need to define your rich life. See, for Ramit, being rich isn't about having a specific number in the bank. It's about having the freedom to spend extravagantly on the things you truly love, while being absolutely ruthless about cutting costs on the things you don't. It's a total shift from a life of deprivation to one of intentional spending.
Okay, so that sounds great, right? But how do you actually do it? Well, it all starts with a tool he calls a conscious spending plan. Think of this as the replacement for that restrictive budget you hate. The goal here isn't to track every penny you've already spent. Instead, it's about creating a forward-looking plan that automatically sends your money exactly where you want it to go, towards the things you value most. So here's how it works. Your income gets split into just 4 main buckets. About 50 to 60% covers your fixed costs, rent, utilities, the essentials. Then a crucial 10% automatically goes straight to your long-term investments. Another 5 to 10% is for your other savings goals, like a vacation or a down payment. And now here's the magic part. That last 20 to 35%, that is your guilt-free spending money. You can blow it on whatever you want, right down to the last cent, with absolutely zero guilt.
This quote from Ramit just perfectly sums up the entire idea. It's a total redefinition of frugality. It's not about being cheap on everything, it's about being strategic. It's about choosing where you'll spend big and where you'll cut back without even a second thought.
All right, let's make this feel a little more real with a quick story from the book. So Ramit's friend Jim gets a pretty nice raise at work. Now, what do you think he did with all that extra money?
Most people would probably upgrade their lifestyle, right? Get a nicer apartment, maybe a fancier car, but Jim did the exact opposite. He actually moved into a smaller place. Why on earth would he do that?
Simple, because Jim just didn't care about having a big, fancy apartment. His true passion was mountain biking. So, by mercilessly cutting his rent, a cost he didn't value, he freed up thousands of dollars to spend extravagantly on high-end bikes, gear, and travel, all completely guilt-free. That is conscious spending in action.
Okay, so conscious spending is the what, but how do you actually make it happen day to day without constantly thinking about it? Well, that brings us to the real engine of this whole system, automation. This automated money flow is what makes everything work. You set it up once, and then it just runs itself. Your paycheck comes in, and, this is the key, before you can even touch it, money is automatically transferred to your investments and your savings accounts. Your bills get paid automatically. Whatever is left over in your checking account is what's truly yours to spend. With this system, saving and investing become the default, not some difficult choice you have to make every single day.
Now, this is the point where a lot of people get stuck. They're afraid of picking the wrong investment or not having the perfect plan. Ramit has a name for this, analysis paralysis. His answer is what he calls the 85% solution. And the idea is just so simple. It's infinitely better to just get started and be mostly right than to wait for perfection and do nothing at all.
I mean, let's be really clear about this. If you start investing now and your plan is only 85% perfect, guess what? You're building wealth. Compound interest is already working for you. But if you wait for that mythical 100% perfect plan, well, you're at zero. You're losing precious time and money every single day. The choice is actually pretty simple when you look at it like.
And what happens is, when you combine this conscious spending idea with full automation, your whole perspective on money starts to shift. You stop agonizing over all the tiny little details, and you start focusing on what really matters, the big wins.
This table really shows that complete mindset shift. So instead of worrying about a $4 latte, your energy goes toward big wins, like negotiating a $10,000 raise. Instead of gambling on picking the right stocks, you just automate your investments into low-cost index funds. Credit cards stop being a source of debt and become a tool for earning rewards. And your savings rate can jump from the typical few percent to over 10 or even 20%. So, look, if you only take one single thing away from all of this, let it be this. Stop worrying about the lattes. Your long-term financial success is going to be determined by getting maybe 5 to 10 big things right and then putting them on autopilot. That is where your time and energy belong.
And that really brings us to the final, most important question. This system isn't about telling you what your life should look like. It's a framework to help you figure that out for yourself. So I'll leave you with this. What does your rich life actually look like? Is it traveling the world? Taking amazing care of your family? Maybe starting your own business? That's the question this system gives you the power to finally answer, and then actually go out and build.